Go! Go, Flat Tracker, go, go, go!
The Kelpie Flat Track Pod, brought to you by Kelpie, affordable race products designed to help you stay on track. Now onto the episode.
G'day and welcome 2023 Kelpie Flat Track Pod, first one for the year. Fantastic to be back. Had a funny old Christmas, got the COVID. That was fine though. After that we sort of bounced back. As you can see, I've had a bit of sun. So got a surf in just before New Year's, which was really cool. Haven't been surfing for almost 12 months. Golden Staff at the start of 22 and then broken collarbone, and it was a funny old year, and then COVID right at the end, and luckily got surf in before New Year's there, actually New Year's Eve day it was, and it's been awesome. Been having some really nice weather here, bit of track work around at home. What else have we been doing? I entered Bathurst. So Bathurst is a long track event in the showgrounds up in New South Wales. So that's in March. Really hanging for that one. It's sort of funny because I did say I wasn't going to be doing much riding, and my first race back is Bathurst. They've got a 19-inch class, which is fantastic. So on American tyres. So I'll be doing that one. I'm actually in 3 classes, 40 plus as well, and Pro 450, and I'm just going to run the American tyres and all of them. I'm not really worried about where I come or whatever. I just want to do that track after doing Oyen in 22. I'm hanging to try another trotting track. It's a lot of fun. Bike setup's a bit better now too, so hopefully I'll do a lot better. Obviously 2023 is going to be a big year. We've got a race team happening, so all those guys are excited. We've got 5 riders. We've got Zane Kinner, Brendan McCowett, Nicholas Berry, Taylor Borshman, and oh my God, Kelsey Jensen. Yeah, I'm a little bit fizzed from the sun, I think. A little fried. Fried is probably a better word. And so I'm looking forward to working together with those guys, and I'm hoping that they're all going to feel like it was worth being part of the Kelpie team for 2023. So that's pretty exciting. The 2 pro riders, hopefully, will be at these 3 weekends. So they're back-to-backs. So 2 rounds each weekend, if that makes sense. So 6 rounds in total for the Aussie Flat Track Nationals. And the first one will be in July, the 1st and 2nd, at Appin in New South Wales. So you would have seen from the teaser last year, a lot of footage going around on social media. Oval's first day, TT's second day. I'm pretty sure that's the same for all 6 rounds, all 3 weekends. But the organisers might change it up. I don't know. I don't have the inside information there. I haven't bothered Dave because I imagine he's pretty busy, and it's been Christmas as well. So over the next 3 weeks or so, I'm going to have to get off my ass to get a few things organised and get a few more pods happening as well. So maybe we'll hit Dave up if he's got a bit of time to chat with us. So that's round 1 and 2 at Appin. Then round 3 and 4 is at Brisbane in Queensland. Pretty sure that's going to be a loose track too. No idea how they'll prepare it. If anyone from Brisbane wants to have a chat about it, give us a bell and we'll talk about the event and how it looks like it might be run up there and that sort of thing. That would be great. And then, so that was September 16th and 17th. Then November 11th and 12th, so getting near the end of the year. So there's a nice gap between them. It's not too big, but not too small, so it gives you time to do training and prep and all that sort of stuff, and go to other events also and support those. So that's great. So November 11 and 12 is at Taree, and that's round 5 and 6. Taree's an oil track, so great to see a couple of different surfaces going to be be in there, because Appen, I imagine they'll let it Blue Groove. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. That's going to be the exciting part about it, I think, is see how each event's ran and how the tracks hold up and how they change and that sort of thing. It's all a learning curve for everyone. I believe there will be quite a few riders there this year. And why do I believe that? Well, my sales have been pretty good, so thank you very much to everyone supporting Kelpie that have bought their wheel sets from me. It's fantastic. I really do appreciate it. It's what helps me get the team running. It's not enough to cover the team at the moment, but that's here or there. I mean, it's definitely, if we weren't making sales to you guys, it wouldn't exist at all. So, it's fantastic. Sold all our KTM. Lost my train of thought there. Sorry about that. Sold all our KTM wheel sets. So, if you are after a Husqvarna or KTM wheel set, just drop us a line, because I am putting an order in soon. I need to work out a few other things as well, some spoke sets and stuff. So, just give us a bell. If there are other products that you would rather buy from us, let me know what they are, because it does help. I don't stock a lot of sort of standard generic stuff you can get from your normal motorbike shop at the moment, but I have had a few people ask for, sprockets. Can I get my sprockets at the same time, and my brake rotors and that? If you think that would be a lot easier and the way to go, then I can definitely get them, and I can stock them. But I'm not going to buy a whole lot of stock when I could put it towards other stock, So if you guys think that's a good idea and you would buy them off me, let me know so that I can. We're a very new business still. We only started in February last year getting stock. So, working all that sort of stuff out. It sort of does make sense, but, I'm trying to put the maximum money aside to get into my next wheel tyre mould and that sort of stuff, and, expand the range a little bit and that sort of thing. But any feedback's much appreciated is what I'm trying to say. So I do have a podcast for you. It's an interview. It's a banger. I really enjoyed myself. It sort of took me by surprise, because, as a host, you don't really know what you're getting into until you're in it. Sometimes your guest is very easy to talk to. Other times you have to work a little bit harder. I hope I make it sound easy. I'm pretty sure there's a couple pods in the past that you sound like we're working a little bit harder, but this one was definitely not like that. So it's with the Dutch Flat Track, and it's over in the Netherlands. It's a series. It's a couple guys that run it. Richard Japan and Michael, sorry, I can't remember his surname, but Michael was sick, unfortunately, so next time Michael will get to meet. But had a fantastic talk with Richard, went for almost 3 hours, so I'm going to break this into 2 pods. Sounds like they've got a fantastic scene over there. If you're interested in travelling, as part of your sport, part of your hobby, even if you're not really, even if you're more into the bike building and that sort of thing, Netherlands is definitely the place to go and visit and hang out with some of the guys there and that, because they're building up framers, and framers seem to be quite a big a thing there. So I think that's quite, what I took away from the chat was that's quite a big part of it, is actually the building of the motorcycles and then racing them. So, and that's fantastic. For us over here, I think it's similar. It's always has been that element within our dirt track community, and now it's even converting our dirt track bikes into, if you use the American terminology, DTX, which is actually global now anyway. So motocross bike into a flat track bike with 19s. There's still that element of, dressing them up and making them look like an American flat track bike, I suppose you could say, because really, let's be honest, that's sort of where the influence had come from. So, but yeah, really cool chat. I think you're going to enjoy it. Richard seems like a great guy, really enthusiastic about what they do. Anyone that listens to this that's ever been involved in organising stuff knows how hard it is. And there's just a couple of them that do it, and they're making it happen. They've got some great videos on YouTube. Check out Dutch Flat Track on YouTube. Actually, I'm going to try and put a link on on the Kelpie Facebook page to one of the videos about a track that we talk about. And yeah, I thought it was purpose built, but it's not. It's a sort of venue where they can change stuff around. It's pretty amazing, actually. And it looked like a pretty cool track. So, yeah, their numbers aren't huge yet over there, but guys guys going over there to race with them, and that will change that. And you'll hear from during the chat, they're actually very spoiled. They've got a lot of countries around them close enough that they can drive to each other and race each other, which is just, I don't know, I'm quite jealous. It's pretty awesome. And it's not really that different to here with states, but it's just countries, and yeah. But they've got a pretty big scene when you start linking it all together, and that's the whole point of this pod. Is that's what I want to point out is our sport is actually pretty huge. Like when you start linking all these countries together, states together, yeah, within countries, there's a bigger community than you think. There's there's always been people making money off making hot shoes, engine building, making underslung pipes and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I want that to be acknowledged. I want some of those guys to maybe think, oh, it's time to support some more riders if they've stopped doing it and they have in the past done it, or if they've never done it, yeah, give back, guys, because we want our sport to grow, and that's how it does, is all by scratching each other's back, and yeah, it would be really cool. So anyway, I'm not going to talk too much longer. I think yeah, I mentioned the AFT series rounds, Bathurst. They're sort of the big ones. Not sure what's happening with the Kelpie Cup yet. Hopefully I can release some stuff about that soon. That's one of my other many jobs. I've got to start writing my list and ticking it off. Yeah, I've been a little bit slack over Christmas, to be honest. And yeah, we all deserve a break. And it was sort of good just to numb the brain and watch some rubbish and watch some movies and not think about too much. Normally my mind's running at 100 miles per hour. Just started getting back into a bit of physical training too after injury and COVID and all that, and it's bloody hard work. Don't stop. If you do train like that, don't stop. Just try. I could have used the exercise bike inside, and I chose not to, and I regret it because it feels like I'm starting all over again. But anyway, it is what it is. And I look forward to being back in full fitness and having a good time up at Bathurst. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I'll yeah, talk a little bit more at the end, and then obviously part 2. And yeah, hopefully they will upload nice and easily. And you guys enjoy my chat with... I don't know why, Richard, but I keep going to call you Peter. I think it's because I've got an Uncle Peter and we're a Dutch side of the family. Anyway, so it's Richard Japan, and yeah, this is our talk, and I hope you really enjoy it. We didn't have record.
We have this amazing podcast in the Netherlands. It's called Kloten met Motors, which is Dutch.
Yep.
And it translates a bit like messing around with bikes.
Yeah, right.
It's just fun. And the guy who's doing the podcast, his name is Paul Cairo. He's an actor, so he's a little bit of famous in the Netherlands, and he's really promoting our sport. So that's really cool. But he actually had, I think, once or twice that he was going into the conversation quite a bit and thinking like, oh wow, but now I've got some real good stuff, and he was looking at his machine like, maybe we should start over because I'm not recording yet.
It can easily happen. I actually did do a podcast with a young rider we're supporting, and it was an hour, and we stopped and went fantastic. And I think went to him before you go, we'll have a look, see what you look like on camera and that. And it was all pixels. And I'm going, I've never had this happen before. What's going on? And it turned out my computer memory was full, so it didn't record it properly. So now I record to cloud. So you learn from your lesson.
Yeah.
And now I record to cloud. So yeah. Anyway, welcome everyone. Welcome you, Richard. How do I say your surname? Japin?
Yeah, that's pronounced quite good. It's Japin in Dutch. So yeah.
Yeah, and you're in the Netherlands. Are you actually in? So I was doing a little bit of research, but I'm probably still wrong. Are you in North or South Holland, or are you in the Netherlands? So out of Holland.
Yeah, we're in the middle of it. We have different provinces, but it's not as a big thing as states.
Yeah.
So it's just one country with different places to live. But it doesn't really matter in which province you live. It doesn't really change any rules or regulations or whatever.
Yeah.
Other than the way you pay taxes to the local authorities. But
yeah,
no, I live in the middle of the Netherlands, which doesn't really matter because it's not a big country. So, and which is funny, by the way, because our tracks in the Netherlands are almost actually all of the tracks are in the north. Like from center, you have a track in Lelystad. That's like near Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And everything else is way back north. And I say way back north. Which means that I have to drive for 2, maybe 2.5, 3 hours to get to the races.
Yeah.
And I can hear every Australian and American listener laughing out loud, like, dude, that's around the corner.
It is still.
But that's the Dutch disease, we're used to having everything around the corner. And I mean literally around the corner. When I go to pick up groceries, I can walk to it.
Yeah.
Also because where I live, it has a supermarket. It's pretty close. But people, especially in cities, are really familiar with having everything around them.
Yeah.
And also motocross is quite big in the Netherlands. And I think when you put a radius of like half an hour driving around me, you find 30 motocross tracks.
Amazing. Yeah. That was going to be one of my questions is has flat track always existed in the Netherlands? We'll just backtrack a little bit more because I didn't introduce you properly. I'm speaking to Richard Japin, and you are one of the co-founders. There is also, was it Michael or Michael?
Michael, yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Dykstra.
And he's a little bit crook, so he couldn't make it today. So you're representing Team Dutch Flat Track. So that's what we're speaking about today is the beast you've created, which I'm sure you've probably at some stage, God, why did we start this? But it's really cool to see, and I've been watching your stuff on YouTube and following you a bit on Facebook. Do you have an Instagram as well?
Yeah,
right. So
yeah, that as well.
So the sort of major socials you're on, they're, to me, they're major socials. They're the ones I follow.
Not on TikTok yet, and no Snapchat, but yeah, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We have our own website, so yeah, we try to cover the main bases.
Yeah, so awesome. So we'll go back to before Dutch Flat Track was flat track racing already happening, or did you guys start getting together and you had an interest? Did you race Speedway before? How did it all come about?
Well, yeah, thanks for having me, of course. I think it's a great pleasure to talk to someone who is as passionate as we are about flat track, because I watched some of your podcasts, listened to it, watched it, and yeah, it's funny. You're across the globe for me, but it's like we're talking the same language, you know. It's like
exactly.
Really
And
cool.
that's what it's all about. You know, the other podcasts are fantastic too, but I sort of feel like they're missing the actual network that is there, that you can see when you look through all the social medias. You might only get a tiny glimpse of the Dutch stuff, or Indonesia or New Zealand, and that's why I wanted to reach out and let people know and talk to you guys in different parts of the world that there's millions of us out there that really love the sport and are into it and have got our own little thing happening. And I want it to link up and everyone to, you know, after this podcast, reach out to you. Maybe they have friends and families in the Netherlands and want to come and cut some laps. You know, you just don't know who's out there listening. And
that's true. That's true. So thank you for this opportunity. It's amazing. I'll jump into answering your question. Well, how did it came about? Actually, flat track did exist. I think now 12 years ago.
Yep.
Mick Jansen and Jan Willem Jansen, two brothers, they called themselves the Dutch Brothers.
Yep.
Organized flat track races for the first time in the Netherlands. Actually, there's not that much of speedway left anymore in the Netherlands, so it started as a secondary program to grass track or long track races, which still happen in the north of the Netherlands. We also have World Championship races at some of our tracks. So that's where they kind of joined in and also organized races in Germany. So they had this Dutch flat track. The name was founded by them, the Dutch Flat Track Cup.
Okay.
Later, they had actually a sponsor, so it became the Mevo Cup, which is a German company who sponsored them, and they organized races for a couple of years, and actually attracted quite a bit of a European crowd, and even one American rider, which is a very familiar face. It's Michelle DeSalvo. One of the mechanics of Brian Bauman currently.
Yeah, right.
She raced my companion Michael, like in 2008 or something.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing, you know.
Yeah,
like
awesome.
the 2008 till 2012, I guess, was the racing.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that period, she raced flat track in Europe and joined the Dutch series as well. So that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
But we also had Marco Belli, quite a familiar face as well, an Italian rider, some English riders as well. So that was quite a successful cup, but it faded away, which is unfortunate. But flat track kind of existed a bit in Italy, but not really.
Yeah.
And of course, you had already the DTRA, which was called something different back then, but now it's the DTRA in the UK.
Yeah.
And everyone who was going flat tracking was going to the UK to do so. And for us, flat tracking in the Netherlands actually started in 2016 again with a couple of Belgian guys organizing a race in Zolder, which is just across the border in Belgium.
Yeah.
And they called it Hell's Race. And it's quite a nice event. You can find Hell's Race footage on YouTube.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar. I'm pretty sure I've watched that one.
Yeah. Well, in 2016, they did the first race in Zolder, and they moved to Lelystad in 2017. And so that was actually the rebirth of flat track in the Netherlands. And after 2017, they decided that it was a one-off race, and you had the Hell's Race, and you had Flatlands, which was another race, also in Lelystad, organized by a Dutch custom builder. So he actually has a custom bike shop, and he was organizing this event, which was quite cool because it was like a festival. And Hell's Race in itself was already kind of festive, you know. It was a lot of. It was not only racing; it was also. It already was a community, and what these guys did very good, especially the Hell's Race guys from Belgium, they had connections with the whole European flat track scene. So the English riders came over, the French riders came over, Spanish riders who also attended the UK races came over. So they had like 150, I think the top was 170 riders.
Wow, yeah.
Competing in a one-day event,
yeah.
on a 300-meter oval. So it was awesome. That was really cool. And I actually watched the first Lelystad race in 2017, and I joined riding in 2018 myself then. So that's how flat track came back in the Netherlands. And when the Hell's Race started as a one-off event for every year. So 2016, 2017 was one-off, and then you had the Flatlands also one-off.
Yeah.
The next year, they decided to do a series. So they did 3 races, or I guess 4, all in Lelystad.
Yep.
And then you also had Flatlands, so you had like 4 or 5 races you could go to.
Yeah, okay.
Really cool.
Yeah.
And in 2019, also the German crowd race started. So we actually had, not that far away from us, something else popping up.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
flat track is really up and coming in Europe or northwest of Europe in the last couple of years. But unfortunately, the Hell's Race boys, they stopped organizing. They did Hell's Race in, I think, 2019 as well. And then the owner of the venue in Lelystad took over the series to keep continuing that.
Yeah.
But that sort of died as well.
Yeah.
And then a couple of us were like, it would be a shame if something that's just started again would fade away. So that's how on December 5, 2019, we founded Dutch Flat Track.
Oh.
Decided to do races again, try to continue racing.
Yeah.
Well, it took us 2 years for obvious reasons because COVID came along. But we did some practice sessions in 2020, 2021. But actually last year, or the past year, was our first racing year. So Michael and myself organized 4 races, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And that's how it all started. So we try to move or continue the flat track racing, which is still really small. I think in the Netherlands, we have a lot of German riders. I think like 50% of our riders is German. We have Belgian riders, a couple of French, Spanish riders still coming to our races, which is really cool. Some people drive.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Drive ridiculous amounts of hours. Like we had this one guy who was actually Belgian, but he lives on the Canary Islands. That's like 2 days to get to us, because you have to get off the island, go to Spain, and then go all the way across Spain, France, and then come through Belgium to the Netherlands.
Yeah,
so
dedication.
He took like a 14-hour drive. Then he was already in Spain, not on the island anymore.
Yeah,
that part he already covered, but then still he did 14 hours to get to us.
Amazing. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, people are crazy when it comes to flat track, which is really great.
Yeah, I think part of that traveling and that it's all just part of it, and makes it even more sort of mind blowing. It gives you something. I don't know. You just feel rewarded. I don't know. I can't really explain it either. But we've done some big hours in cars, and you just don't regret it. You sort of don't care. You go, you do the meeting, you go. That was fantastic. I didn't do as well as I thought, or I did better than I thought, whichever the outcome is. And then you go home and you look for the next one. Do it all again.
Yeah, it's amazing. We do it too, we especially the crowd races. It really took off in 2020, 2021. They kind of worked around COVID, so that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And that's for us. It's depending on where you are in Germany. It's our neighboring country. It's kind of big.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes we did travel 8 or 9 hours to get to a race. But what they did, and what we try to do as well, we try to do for each race that we do, we try to have one day, or at least an afternoon, full of practice. So that's the only goal for the first day, is to have 4 or 5 hours of free practice.
Yeah.
And the next day you have the races. So when you travel, that's the ridiculous amounts of hours in the car.
Yeah.
You get two days of riding.
Yeah.
And that
makes it. That was going to be a question, actually. I was going to ask if they're just conducted over 1 or 2 days. So yeah, you've answered that nicely for me.
Yeah. We try. We also try to do 2 days, which doesn't always. It's not always possible, but
yeah,
when we have the possibility, we do. On Saturdays, practice day, Sunday race day. So that's
in some ways, I can sort of see COVID might have been a bit of a blessing if you just decided, right, yeah, we're going to start holding races. Had you ever done that before? Like, had you ever held a meeting before? Do you guys have a governing body like we have Motorcycling Australia here, and then we have one governing body for each state? So Motorcycling New South Wales, Motorcycling Victoria, South Australia, and such on. And then you can either be a promoter or you can be an actual club and run events. There's so much red tape, it's unbelievable. Do you have that sort of thing, or is it a lot more simple structure? Like, what was your learning curve?
It's a bit more simple, I think. It's not simple, but it's we really needed to find a way, and in that way, COVID gave us the time, yes, to figure out how everything works. Sorry, we have 2 governing bodies in the Netherlands. Kind of a bit of a rivalry between the KNVB and the MON.
Yeah,
we joined the MON for the races. Actually, what they do. They help us with the organization. They figure out all kinds of stuff with regulations, with tracks, with law and whatever. But basically, when you break it down, especially for us, for the motocross department, they also have officials and medical staff and whatever.
Yeah,
we only use a bit of the officials. So we always have one person available for us at the race day to help our race director. So then he has 4 eyes. That's also that's also nice. But we have our own race director. I can call him a good friend of mine, Marcel van der Stelt. He's been with us for all these years and helping out, and amazing guy. He's always there. Has a racing background, so he's been a racer himself. So he knows the ropes, and that really helps out. But when it comes to the governing body, we just use the license, and I think actually that's only insurance. We need to be insured as a club. We need to make sure that the people that are helping us, like Marcel, are insured. So if someone runs into them, they're insured. Or when we make a decision that's not really good, then for the consequences, we have insurance as well. And of course, the riders, they can join by paying a small fee to have a day license or a year license, and then everything is covered. And that's basically the main thing. Then we have to arrange the medical staff, but we have a good partnership there as well. So that's really cool. And basically then it's going to tracks. Try to convince them to let us ride, which is sometimes easy and sometimes hard. Some tracks in the Netherlands we haven't been able to ride on because they're like, I don't want those hipster guys with the funny bikes coming around the track.
So that begs the question: what are those tracks? Like I've seen the footage online. They look like speedway tracks. Are they speedway tracks, or are they used by cars?
They're speedway tracks. Actually, in the Netherlands, we had a bit of a speedway scene post World War II, and it really died. Speedway in Germany is quite big. You still have Bundesliga races, but in the Netherlands, there's only a handful of people still racing speedway. And but some of the tracks are still here. So those are tracks that where we ride on. But if I go through the calendar for us for last year, we had Blijham, which is actually two tracks in one. You have a short track it's 360 meters, I guess. They have a somewhat bigger track, 440 meters. So we did for our rookie classes, we did the small track, we have a Sunday Cup with Sunday motors. So that was on the short track, and the classes were on the longer track. And that's actually it's a clay oval on which they do have they did ride speedway there in the past, but nowadays it's mostly used for car racing actually.
Okay.
We were the first to come back as motorcycles, and as I told the Dutch brothers, the Dutch Flat Track Cup from like a decade ago, also rode on Blijham. So that was our first race, and the second race was at Speed Center Rode. And Rode is a 600-meter gravel track, so it's a lot faster. A whole different challenge for all the riders, so that's really cool. And it's gravel, so it's totally different to ride on than clay or dirt.
I bet.
And it's actually a venue that's being used for grass track and long track races, even on World Championship level. So it has all the facilities. It's all there. It's a beautiful track in a nice surroundings. So perfect location to have races. And we already did practice there for a couple of years. So we try to have the we try to build from there to start practicing there and showing them what it's all about, and then moving up to the question like, hey, can we have a race sometime?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and that's building the relationship, isn't it? You know, gaining their trust to let them know that you're there for the one purpose, the love of the sport, love of riding your bikes. You're not there to trash their facilities and run amok.
Well, I have to say, the flat tracking community really helps because the riders that attend to our races are most of the time, I think, without any exemption, easygoing, laid back people who don't always look like they are, because I don't know how it is in Australia, but in Europe and also in the Netherlands, flat track seems to attract people who are, well, in the alternative scene.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm one of the few riders without a tattoo, just to mention something. So tattoos are really common. Beards are really common.
Yeah, so sort of bike.
Jackets, you know, it's like it's one way. One part of the community is well, basically like me. Office kind of jobs and stuff like that. Doctors, we even have doctors riding. But others are custom bike builders, or a lot of people are in creative jobs like photography or art, and they all attract to this sport. So it looks like a kind of a heavy metal community. But when you talk to us, it's like, oh, they're really nice people and they're really laid back. And we never have problems, and that's I think that's really helpful when it comes to races. Our third race of last year was in Siddeburen, which is funny. That's the kind of humor my colleague Michael has. He said, like, hey, if you take 2 letters out of Siddeburen, you get sideburn. we should talk to Gary about this. So that was really funny as well. But in Siddeburen, they don't have a permanent track. They have like a big clay field on which they can actually build everything you like.
All right.
Well, that was for us like, okay, we want to do an oval, but we also do want to have a TT.
Yeah, right.
So having a right turn and a jump. They have a lot of dirt. They can move around. They actually have once a year or twice a year a motocross event. And they also host the grass track races there.
Yeah.
But flat track was, also a first since like 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
And they told us afterwards, which was really funny, we had a very successful event there, way too long. We did the oval and the TT track on one day. So we started at 10 in the morning with the racing, and we ended at 10 in the evening.
Oh, big day.
It was a good party because a lot of people showed up. The whole town came to see the races.
Oh, fantastic.
Started drinking beer immediately, so the vibe was really good. But they said afterwards, so we had like a brilliant day of racing, but way too long, and it was past midnight, and we were talking, and they were like, yeah, at first we didn't know what to expect. Bunch of hipsters coming on their bikes and don't know. But not only was it a success, but we never had a race day without any fights, any swearing or yelling or whatever, any problems with the riders or people helping riders. And we were like, yeah, we actually never have that. It's not really uncommon. It's not like this was an accident or whatever. This is just being us.
Yeah.
And they said, like, well, you look your trouble, you know. When you come in, And it's all shapes and sizes of people and vans and trucks. And they're like, oh man, what's this gonna be?
Yeah, what have we
First
done?
thing that comes out of the haulers is the cases of beer. It's like, oh dear, it's gonna be cool, and it isn't. So that's really funny.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, crack up. And so I think that one's on YouTube, isn't it, with the TT track?
Yeah. We actually had Sietse Punter. That's one of the. He's a guy who does report all the grass track and the long track races in the Netherlands. And we asked him, can you film our races as well?
Yeah, awesome.
Join SPW Media on YouTube. Then you can see all our races. But Cinderbuur is definitely on there with the TT as well.
Yeah, that looks like it's purpose built. To me, that looks like it's always been there, that track. It's amazing.
It actually isn't. It's just we came in on Friday night and we just took a couple of pillons and just started assembling like, okay, this I think is good. And Mike was one of the faster riders in Europe. So he actually did a couple of years back, he was a regular in the World Cup.
Okay.
World Cup. And
is that the FIM?
Yeah. And
right.
he did a wild card in Diedeberge in Germany this year. Just came in a busy year for him. He recently became father. He wasn't a father then, so it was all kinds of distraction in his life. He just came in for one race, just took his bike and went. Made the final and finished, I think, 8th. Something. Top 10.
Good. Yeah, top 10, awesome.
He's that fast.
Yeah, right.
He's an amazing rider. So he's our guinea pig.
The track
like, hey, dude, if you can't ride it, no one can. So just have a lap. And so we just started with the pillars and it was like, Michael, your turn. You need to go check out the track. And we just, adjusted it a bit and tried to figure out what's best. And we learned a lot because we made a TT, which had the first corner, like 3/4 of it, you turn it to the inside. Yeah. And then you had like I think a 90-degree turn to the left, 90-degree turn to the right, and then you went over the jump and on the big oval again. Yeah. During the races, we had to make a rule that if you cut the corner, which was quite easy because it's just pillons and cones and nothing really more. If you cut the corner, you have to give back the position. If you don't, you get disqualified. Yeah. We had to do that because, a lot of people didn't make the turn and then just decided to cut it. Yeah, right. So now for next year, we're thinking about barriers like we have in go-karts, indoor go-kart tracks. You have these barriers which you can put on top of each other for a bit. It's like a Lego wall. Yeah. So that's not dangerous because if you ride in it, you just take along the whole string. Yeah. Then you can't cut the corner anymore. So that's all stuff that we figure out. Like, hey, we need to do this or that next year to improve again. Yeah. So no, it's not a purpose-built track. It was actually just a field. Yeah. And the grass was
amazing. Yeah, because that was I think out of the ones I watched, that was my favourite. The jump's actually a decent jump. Like from memory, you actually have a bit of a run up. You get a decent air, and it just looks like it's well planned. A lot of TTs that aren't in America, even actually one of the ones I saw last season in America was in it was just off the corner. It was in the shitty spot. Was that Sturgis? I can't remember. But the placement of your jump was good. I thought, that looks nice. You can actually prepare for it and get some decent air. It's not just a roll, or it's not a silly sort of ramp like some of the ones I've come across around here. They're just the actual launch ramp so harsh you can't actually take it with any speed anyway, because it's just your suspension's a bit harder. It's just not right, But
we tried to make a ramp we called it a pussy ramp for motocross, you know. Another really fast Dutch rider, Menno van Meer, he went the whole FIM World Championship.
Yeah.
And he came in second in the last race in Italy, so it was quite impressive.
Yeah.
And he has a background in motocross. He was one of the top youth riders in the Netherlands a couple of years back. So he knows his way around the TT track because it's actually motocross for pussies. And so he was like, this ramp could have been higher. There I come along on my wood Rotax, which is like hardly a frame with a 2 of an engine.
Yeah.
10 centimeters of
travel,
and just hitting the jump, and I was like, "Oh fuck, this is not going to end well." First time I went down, it was wobbling and shaking and all. I was like, okay, I need more throttle, you know. It's like I need to go faster to avoid this. Yeah. So I was really trying to get the hang of it, and he just hit it first time and just flew out a few meters. And well, he won that day, of course, because
yeah, he was comfortable.
Totally comfortable. And we were like, the track is a bit rough and it's getting a bit rutted. Well, if you use the motocross, it's still nothing.
That's right.
Especially with all the sand tracks we have in the Netherlands. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? This is perfect.
It's even, I think that's sort of like going from dirt track or flat track to motard. You get that sensation because flat track does change during the day all the time, and even with the American style setup tires and that, they still, I imagine, would still be changing. It's dirt, you know, it's movable, and you have braking points and powering on points and that sort of stuff. So it would be changing all the time. But, you know, when you go to Super Motard, the first time I went on it, I just went, it's just the same all the time. I just got to get my marks right.
Well, actually, Super Motard or road racing is easier in a way that it's constant.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think one of the beauties of flat track is that the surface is constantly changing.
Yeah, I love it.
Especially because in Siddeburen, the TT was into the night. So we had to put the lights on eventually, and you really, what they talk about in America, when the moisture comes up, we really had that.
Yeah, right.
So the track was really dry and getting a bit rutted during the day, but in the evening, the moisture came in, and then you started to have a bit more grip again. So it's funny to see how it all changes during the day. And especially in Vledderveen, our last race, which is, I think it's 250 meters, so it's a short track, but it is a real paperclip sized.
Yeah.
So it has long straights and short corners. And it's a bit too soft, actually, for flat track. So during the day, it really gets bumpy in those corners. So at the beginning of the day, what I do is I just square in and make the inside of the turn, try to turn around as quickly as possible on the throttle.
Yeah.
During the day, my line going into the corner really moves out.
Yeah.
Because I want to avoid all the bumps getting in, and especially because I'm on a framer. On a motocross bike, on a DTX, it's easier to turn because the frames are built for that.
Yeah.
But the framers, they don't really like the rutted tracks. They don't handle that well.
Yeah.
But I try to compensate by getting into the corner a bit wide, then turn on the outside and just square off the corner and going across all the ruts that are there.
And that should have worked. It did work.
It did work, I think second of the day. So didn't work as good enough, but not for the win. But it worked enough. And people were like, "Man, how are you so fast on this track?" It was like, just watch the line I'm riding. You know, it's
you have to change it up, and that's. I think that's the deceiving thing about the sport is, and we've talked about it before on this pod, is that people just assume you're going in the circle, which in a way they're right, but every circle isn't really a circle. It looks like it is, but once you get on it, you realize, oh, actually, all the radiuses are totally different. Even from each end, the radius can be different. One end is slightly, it pulls in tighter as you're exiting, and the other one might be a softer radius, and you can actually power all the way out and go out wide, or because you've got a lot more room. But looking at it, it looks like a circle or an oval, or, you know.
And it looks completely even.
Yeah.
Until you start riding, and then it's like, oh, what you didn't see from above is that it actually has a bit of camber in the corners, or not, or this is a wet spot, that's a dry spot.
Yeah, and they're all, and so then you're getting into the other things, the different surfaces, and how some hold moisture and some don't. Some release it when it cools down, and some go to completely dry and skatey no matter how much moisture you put in them. And that could just be the location of the track, the way the wind hits it. All these elements come into play and change your day's racing in an instant. And I think that's one of the things I love about it. It's so challenging. Like you sort of think, oh yeah, it's just another dirt track, but it's so much more science to it than that.
I haven't found a track that's similar to any other track yet.
Yeah.
I've been to a lot of tracks now. Last year I did 11 races on 11 different venues. I think in the last, I'm riding flat track for 5 years now. So I think I've been to like 25 different venues.
Yeah.
I haven't found any one that's the same as some other. So yeah, it's really fun. And the track is sometimes completely different than what you remember. For example, in Germany, near Berlin, there's a track in Wolfslage, which is funny. Wolfslage consists of like 3 houses and a speedway track. So when you get there, the first time we were like, I think we just passed it. You know? This is all. We turn around like, I think there was a speedway track on the right side. Yeah, it is. So it's like, welcome to Wolfslage. Goodbye. Just a few meters time. It's really small.
And so is the track crew live in the 3 houses, or the guys that look after the track house?
Of course, on the corner, the nearest to the track, there's this old guy who hates speedway or whatever that's making noise. That's always the same. I don't know how these people get to it, because the track has been there for like 50 years.
Yeah.
Maybe the guy's living there longer. I don't know. He's quite old, but he doesn't seem too happy when the weekend progresses. You see him more and more often. He gets angrier and angrier. Try to bribe him with beers, you know, like.
Yeah, that's it's funny, isn't it? Like you say, we're on opposite sides of the world, but we have the same problems.
Of course. I can imagine it's the same in Australia, which is bonkers in itself, because Australia is a continent, and you have like 25 million inhabitants, and for us, the Netherlands is like this. We have 17 million people living here. So can you imagine what that does to noise complaints and? But it's the same everywhere, because we have another track in Germany, which is quite close to us, is in Norden. And it's like you're riding over the edge of the world. You're riding into nowhere. Right. And all of a sudden, there's a big stadium where they did World Championship Speedway back in the day. I think it's built in post-World War II era.
Yeah.
And they have to shut down every day they ride from, I think, 1 till 3 p.m. So they have to be quiet for 2 hours.
Oh.
Because in the whole middle of nothing is this track, and one guy living beside the track who hates the noise.
So they struck a deal.
There's nothing there. There's really nothing there.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. And then just across the track, it's this guy living. It's like, oh
So
man.
they struck a deal with him. We'll be quiet from 1 till 3 every day.
Yeah, I think that's like a compromise they came up with. Like if we have a race day or a practice day, well, just cut the noise into pieces. We have this in Germany quite a lot.
Yeah, okay.
In the Netherlands, you often can arrange like noise days, and tracks usually have a couple of days a year. I think it's just a couple because they get like 10 days or something.
Yeah.
Out of the 365, that's not that much.
Yeah.
But they get like 10 or 15. Some tracks are a bit more lucky. They have 20 days in a year on which they can make noise.
Yeah.
And then still you try to avoid unnecessary noise. So we always try to say to people like, okay, no riding in the pits, do not start the bike before we enter practice. It's like, just keep the noise to when we start with the practice, normally like 10 o'clock in the morning. And then the end of the race day is like 5 or 6 in the afternoon. Yeah. And just keep noise between those hours. Don't start bikes in the evening when you have the party. You can have the party, make as lot of noise as you want, but don't start the bike.
Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? Yeah, it's just I can't believe that it just seems to be a common thing everywhere. Like, I guess we're humans and we're all living everywhere, so it makes sense that it happens. But still, it blows my mind that people.
Maybe we should arrange that all the people who like this start living on one place. And all the others can have their piece.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that still wouldn't work. I don't know why. I'm just sure there'd be something that would stop it. So, you as a racer, did you always race motorbikes since you were a kid, or was something you just got into later on, or?
Yeah, I came in too late, I'm afraid.
No, me too. I started when I was 32, so I totally understand.
Yeah, I think I'm a few years before you. I think I was 30 or something that I started. And actually, I did ride a couple of 50cc races, but I started with the assumption that you could have a 50cc bike or moped actually, and just adjust it a little bit, and then for not that lot of money you can race. And I found out after a couple of races, like, okay, if you really want to be competitive, you just have to put in like thousands of euros to be somewhere in the field.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, okay, that's a bit too much. So that's when I decided to get my motorcycle license for on the road.
Yeah.
So did that for a couple of years, did a few track days and some practice schools, like a motocross school or whatever.
Yeah. But
nothing really serious until I watched that 2017 Hell's race in Lelystad, and I was like, this could be something.
Yeah. Right.
And but I didn't really give it much thought until my road bike broke down. Not really. I brought it to a shop for maintenance, and they called me and they were like, there's a problem because the engine is cracked. So I ride a Ducati Monster from '98.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And one of the points on which the engine is bolted to the frame was actually cracked, and the bolt holding the engine was actually broken.
Yeah.
So they were like, it's not really a big of a deal. We can just weld it back together because it's not a functional part of the sump. But the engine has to be taken out, and that's a lot of work, a lot of hours, a lot of money. Maybe you want to do it by yourself. And I was like, yeah, please do, because I can do some things myself, and I'm trying to progress every time. But when it comes to checking valves and all that kind of stuff on a Ducati, I'm like, okay, just bring it to a shop.
Yeah.
So they know I know my way around tools, and they were like, maybe you want to pick it up and take the engine out yourself. So I did. But then I had the engine aside the frame, and I was like, yeah, it's a 600cc. Maybe I can put a 900 in. Because it's more fun, more power, and on the road, that's more fun. So I did. And then I had this 600cc engine lying around. So I got it welded and decided in, I think, maybe some beers were involved in that decision. I was like, I went to this Hell's race. I think I want to join next year. Yeah, so I spent my whole winter building another Ducati Monster with that 600cc engine now welded.
Yeah.
And well, didn't know anything about flat track at that time, just that it looked fun. And I remember going to Lelystad for a practice session and standing ready to go on track. And I was like, I hope this is fun. Otherwise, I spend a whole lot of amount of money and time on something I don't like, and I'm about to find out. I never went to any practice sessions. I never tried it before. I just started building a bike, and now you have like schools, and in Lelystad they have tryouts, and my companion Michael is having this flat track academy school. So
cool.
So now you can attend to days on which bikes are ready for you and you can try.
Yeah.
It didn't exist back then.
Yeah.
So I was just trying out myself. But I really liked it. So
awesome. So did you on your Monster, what wheels did you use? Did you find some 19s that would fit it, or?
Yeah, I had the guy. I met a guy through. I asked the Belgian organizers of the Hell's race back then, like, hey, I'm trying to do this. Where can I find the flat track wheels, the 19-inch big balloon tires? Where can I find them?
Yeah.
And I said, well, in Jouwe, which is in the north of the Netherlands, you have JSR wheels. He can provide you with that. Okay. So I went to Jan Simon. He took care of that. He made spaces and all, so the wheels would fit into the bike.
Yeah.
And that was the major adjustment actually. For the rest, I only took things away from the bike, like mirrors,
passenger foot pegs. You wouldn't need
all those. Yeah. Everything you don't need, you just took it off, and that was it. But I was still riding the big long tank that a Ducati Monster has. So I was like this on the bike, which is you can put a flat track bar on it with risers and getting it back, but it was still, and I'm tall. I'm quite big. So, I could manage, but it wasn't ideal. So after the first year, after the first race, I changed my my spring, my suspension, because the first race was quite amusing for the spectators, not so much for me, because I was all over the place. Well, I finished in third in the newbie class, so
not bad.
But,
and you learned a lot. That's the thing.
I learned a lot.
You know?
I had a lot of fun. Got beaten in the last corner for second, so that was the learning curve was steep, you know. And but by the next race, I had my suspension fixed a bit better, and the next year I had someone adjust my tank so it would be quite a lot smaller, so I could move forward, actually on top of the tank of what was left of it, because for flat track. For the road, the Ducati Monster has like a 16 or 17 liter tank. Yeah. I think now on it is, I never measured it, but if it's 3 liters, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But you don't need that much, because it's normally for us, it's 6 laps in a heat race and 8 laps in a final, and then you're done. And then still I have to refuel after 3 sessions. I think I have to refuel once or twice a day. So it was okay. Yeah. But it was always a heavy bike, and in Europe you have hooligan class races as well. but they're from 750cc and up,
Okay.
minus 600. So I kind of figured out in a way, like, okay, I'm riding a really heavy, not meant to be flat tracker,
Yeah.
but it's not a hooligan, so I can't join the hooligan class. So it's
Yeah,
like,
right.
in hindsight, I should have taken a bigger engine. Maybe I should have taken the 900 in this one. Then in that way, it would have been a hooligan.
So on that note, what classes do you have?
Well, we actually have two different directions. We have quite a lot of classes. For us, the Dutch flat track, we took over what was already existing in the UK and in Germany.
Yeah.
You have like classes made up by level.
Yeah.
So that's newbie for the absolute beginner, rookie, amateur or intermediate. We'll call it intermediate next year, and pro.
Right.
So you can progress from being a newbie all the way up to pro. Bikes don't really matter. No front brake, 19-inch flat track wheels. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
So
is that no front brake on everything on TT as well?
Yep. Yeah. We decided, we were thinking about like, hey, TT, you can use a front brake, at least in America.
Yeah.
And because I'm now an organizer myself, I know Anthony Brown from the DTRA, and I asked him, like, Anthony, how are you doing the TTs? Because a lot of the riders, including myself, have a bike you couldn't fit a front brake on, even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Because it's all shaved. The fork legs are shaved. It's like, okay, or the spools of the wheels are not ready for putting on a brake.
Yeah.
And he said, well, we just stick to the normal regulation of no front brake with TT.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it could be done. So that's what we did, which is, well, not the same as having a TT in America, for example, but it's cheaper for the riders. And that's, flat track is still a really, really, really small sport, with like 50 riders in the Netherlands, from which I think 30 actually want to attend races. The rest just wants to have practice days and not much stress and fuss. And we try to grow this and make it bigger. Yeah. And we try to do this by making the rules in a way that it's absolutely flat track, but easy to compete with us, to join us. So you could enter with a 500 euro bike. For newbie class for example, you don't really need to have 19-inch flat track wheels.
Yeah, okay.
Motocross tires, no knobbies, but everything else is permitted. Just take the front brake off, and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
From rookie onwards, we really want you to have flat track wheels, or what we also allow for the same reason again is 17-inch Supermoto rain tires.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Basically, in Spain, for instance, they don't ride 19-inch; they ride 17-inch Supermoto rain tires.
Yeah.
So why not? And that's all part of the strategy to keep the entry level as low as possible. We want as much riders as possible to have a go, to try, and join us in, well, what we think is the most beautiful motorsport on earth.
Yeah.
That's basically how we do it. And other than these classes, we also have some special classes on which certain bikes are only permitted. Vintage class for bikes for 1980 or earlier.
Yeah.
We have the hooligan class, as mentioned. Thunderbike, which is kind of a big class in Europe. Depending on which country you are in, it's like 500 or 600 cc's and up for one cylinder. So your typical Rotex or
so XTs and TT 500s, that sort of stuff. XSs.
That's all Thunderbike.
Yeah.
The basic rule there is that it has to look like a frame or like a flat track bike.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And we're not that strict, you know. I once lined up in Germany across someone who actually put a motocross fender on the front, because when it gets muddy, then he doesn't have all the mud in his face. Then it doesn't look like a framer anymore.
Yeah.
But, well, it's another rider, so I just let him continue.
Yeah.
And I think I would have done the same. You don't want to lose a rider over something like that.
Yeah.
But if he starts being a regular, then you try to tell him, like, hey, this is the way this class should look. And but that's the way we approach things, I guess. And what I didn't mention is we also team up with Bertus Volkertsma, who is actually a Isle of Man competitor a couple of times. He is importer of YCF, who owns or has the Sunday Motors. So we have a Sunday Cup. He provides bikes, but people also buy them themselves, of course. We have a special class for the Sunday Cup.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because there's quite a few in that class. I think there was he over 10, I think I counted, which is good to see. So how many bikes does he provide?
Well, I think he has, like, depending on his success in selling them. At this moment, he was like, yeah, I've got 5 bikes ready. And I got a call the next day. It's 4 now. And the next day it was, now I've got 3. But you still have 5 riders because they're bought by...
They bought them, excellent. Yeah, well, that's great.
Like, I don't have the bikes available anymore, but they're still riding, so that's good.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah.
So
I've always admired those little bikes. I think that was a good move from that business, actually, embracing the sort of custom build framer look. And the only thing I was sort of thinking, I wonder if they could have done a 17-inch instead of, because they're only 14-inch, aren't they, or something?
That's something. My fellow organizer Martin Höning from Germany. He always says, like, oh man, just stick 17s in them and they would so much cooler. And they're easier to ride for people with my posture as well.
Yeah, that's right.
We have this German rider, his name is Patrick Esser. I think he's like 2 meters and up in length, and a really big guy. Yeah. He owns a Sunday, and he wraps himself around it. And he has this... Yeah, he's like the Leon Haslam of flat track. But he pulls his leg out. There's no way of passing him. You know, it's like
wow, better strategy going on there.
It really looks apart, but he's quite fast on it.
Yeah.
And I must, he's big. So it's not that he's fat or anything, but he's a big guy. So he must have weighed like 80, 90 kilos on a Sunday. That's a disadvantage in itself, of course.
Yeah.
And
so are they, because there's actually 2 engine sizes, isn't there? Are they only 190s that you're allowed, or you can run both? 140? I think you're at 150.
Last year we had this 190 only, but now a couple of guys we heard bought the 150cc.
Yeah.
So what we do now, and that's something we... As mentioned, it's not a big sport, so we try to have races that are also good to watch. So we want big fields. We want to have 12 riders.
Yeah.
And normally you start in 3 rows of 4 riders. That's a complete field. We don't get complete fields yet. That's also because, well, for us, like the first race we had 70 riders. That's good.
Yeah.
But if you take it into 8 or 9 classes, that's less than 10 riders a class. So we try to combine somewhat. So that's what we'll do with the Sunday Cup.
Yeah.
Next year we'll have a Sunday Cup for 150, and we'll have a Sunday Cup for 190cc.
Okay.
But depending on the amount of riders, they will ride together. but we will classify them separately.
Score them separately. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you find your biggest classes are at the moment? Would it be the newbie and the intermediate? Are your pro numbers sort of down, or?
Yeah. Pro is not the biggest class. We try to fix that or encourage people to move on through the classes by it was actually something Michael came up with, and we learned that from the DTRA. In the DTRA in the UK, you have this intermediate/pro class.
Yeah.
So you sign in for one or the other, but you ride together and you qualify. And for the day, you could be in the pro final, being an intermediate rider, and vice versa. That's how it works in the UK. We'll do something similar next year, so we can combine the intermediate class, which is quite big for us.
Yeah.
Normally like 10 or 12 riders. But the pro class, depending on sometimes we actually had World Cup, World Championship competitors, not being Michael and Menno as mentioned before, because they're homegrown riders, but we had a Polish rider, Lucas Buznitrich, riding with us. We had a French rider, Stéphane Goyfon, who went riding with us. If those guys join, then the pro class gets bigger, of course.
Yeah.
But there's a German guy, Hannes Köhn, also, well, he did a wild card in Dieterberg as well. He joined one of our races as well. Yeah. And if some of those come together at the same event, then you immediately have like 8 pro riders, which is good for us. But if they're not attending, then we have 4 or 5, and that's not a good race to watch. And if someone breaks down, it immediately becomes like, then it's only 3 riders. Then it's like, it doesn't look good.
Yeah,
so we try to find the intermediate pro in a way that you get a final and a B final.
Yeah.
Because we don't use transponders yet, again, it's small, so financially it's not a possibility for us yet to have transponders, because that's expensive. But so normally you race 3 heats, on which the starting order is actually made up by chance. You start on the first line, second line, and third line for each of every heat.
Yeah. And
the position is then, well, me rolling a dice before the weekend. That's basically how it works.
Yeah, no, that's good.
There's no notary act or whatever involved, but I try to do it as honest as possible.
Yeah.
And what we do is just combine these classes. And when we have like more than 12 riders, we really have to split the 2 classes, and then you will have an A final and a B final.
Yeah.
The A final being the pro, and the B final being the intermediate.
Yeah.
So that's basically how we do it. And the other big class for us is newbie, rookie is obviously bigger. That's most of the times you see that. It's like a pyramid going up.
Yeah.
But Thunderbike is actually quite big as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I have to say, in the UK and in Germany, the vintage class is quite big enough for them to divide vintage into separate classes again.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They have like, I think we went to Greenfield this year. They had this amazing end of year event.
Yeah.
On which Scotty Dubler attended as announcer.
Jeffrey Carver.
Was there. It was quite a sight seeing him ride. It's like, if you think you're fast, you should watch. And then you just watch the next AFT race, and then he's like in 8th place.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, there's all kinds of guys there going that fast. It's like amazing. Actually, Gary Berthwittle gave him a run for his money, so it wasn't that it was a huge difference or whatever, but it was impressive.
But it puts things into perspective, though, doesn't it? Because that's a big question we have here. A lot of I would be classed as an amateur racer, so there's a lot of guys that are my speed or a bit faster or a lot faster. And then we sort of go, well, okay, so we went, unfortunately, I broke my collarbone, so I didn't get to race in the Australian Championships this year. But we got to see a lot of the guys that I would race with race against some guys that do go to America and race on 19 inches. And it just puts everything into perspective. It says, okay, well, maybe we could go over there and actually be quite competitive, you know, like, yeah, it might not be top 10, but it probably wouldn't be that far off. It's just interesting. It makes you think.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it makes you think. And I always looked at the UK racing like, well, that's the biggest championship in Europe, you know. And I was like, I'm wondering how I compare to the riders over there, because they also have Thunderbike, they also have this intermediate/pro.
Yeah.
So I actually just missed the final in the intermediate/pro category. So
okay.
Well, I had the speed for the final, but I made a mistake. So there was a bump on one hand, but on the other hand, well, yeah, I was there. You know, it's not that bad. I'm not dead lost or whatever. I was actually right in the middle of the pack when you get this whole row.
Yeah.
This whole list of riders, I was just in the middle. So yeah, I was quite pleased with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always think of myself as a quite slow rider, because when I think I'm really fast and really hauling ass and going on the track, there you have like Michael passing by on the outside, like, fuck. It's not funny anymore. So I'm always like, okay, I think when it comes to it, I won't be anywhere near. But the difference wasn't that big, so that was good.
Yeah, which obviously helps boost your confidence. What sort of trip was that for you to go to Greenfield? Was that like a big road trip, 12 hours or something more? Or?
Well, we had to cross the water. That was the
well, I have no idea how long that trip.
We took the ferry. You can go by train, but then you have to go to the north of France, and Greenfield it's actually a bit more to the north than where we are in the Netherlands.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I went with my buddy Bart and his girlfriend Lisa, who also rides.
Yep.
Amazing by itself, because she's like 1.5 meters tall and she handles the big bikes, and it's amazing to see.
Yeah, awesome.
She's always pink, so she always gets a bit of a crowd reaction by that.
Yeah.
And was actually rider of the day in Greenfield, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
As a bonus, she got to ride the Ducati Scrambler from David Vanoni Racing, on which Jack Bell normally rides.
Yeah, okay.
And that's quite a big bike. It would have been like my Ducati Monster. It's that big.
Yeah.
And there you have this 1.5 meter tall or tiny girl. We put her on this bike. It was like, okay, we need to adjust a few things so you can reach to everything. She did it, and then she actually, we were kind of struggling on the track because it had that much grip. Starting for us was a disaster. We were just, we're used to having a bit of wheel spin at the start.
Yeah, okay.
And there you didn't have any wheel spin. So we were popping wheelies all the time. And she really 12 o'clocked.
Oh,
but she went back down.
That's the main thing. That's the main thing.
But that's the way we handled this trip. We just gathered around with Bart, Lisa, Rogier, another buddy of mine, and with the four of us went there so we could share the ferry costs. And then still in the Netherlands, it's like a 1 hour drive to the coast to the ferry.
Yeah.
But in the UK, it's like 3.5 hours from getting there to the track.
Yeah.
And then in all, it's quite a trip, because you're like 5.5 hours on the ferry.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't do anything, of course, but it's kind of tiring. But it was because of the DTRA. They actually went out with the message like, people, from the mainland in Europe, we miss you since COVID. We haven't seen you that much. We are organizing a great event on the end of the year. Scotty Dubler, Jeffrey Carver, making a big party out of it. So people who are signing in, who are coming from the mainland, don't have to pay entry fees.
Oh, excellent.
Well, we're Dutch, so we're cheap. So we just straight all there.
So there we go. That's part one, guys. I'll stop it there. It's pretty hard actually to find the right place to stop it, but I think this is as good as any place. Some pretty cool stories there. I love the motocross for pussies. That's pretty funny. So as you can hear, it's pretty cool how it's progressed so far. You'll hear more about tracks and stuff in part two, and I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you will tune into both episodes, and so that's where we'll leave it for this one. I won't do a big intro into the next one, so you don't have to stress too much about Darcy dribbling on again. But go Flat Tracker.
Go Flat Tracker, go, go, go.